Check, check.
Good evening, everyone. Hello, hello, hello. Just pausing conversations for quite an important announcement that the pizza has arrived. I thought you'd be glad that I stopped you. So it's just by the front door where you came in. Help yourself. There's veggie, vegan, and meat. I think that's, and gluten-free as well. Hopefully we've catered for everyone. So please dig in and help yourself. Also, drinks are ambient but chilling in the fridge to the right at the back behind the screen. Thank you.
check, 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 check.
I'm going to introduce projects when I say. Hello, hello, hello. Testing, testing. Testing again. All good?
Go, and now you're all looking, it's not working. This is just, oh, there we go. Fantastic. Right, I'll hand you over to Grace. We've got a clicker issue.
Yeah. Okay, we're starting. We're starting without a clicker, but that's absolutely fine. I'm going to say next slide to Maureen when you can. Is it working? Okay. We may be improvising as we go. Good evening, everyone. Thank you. It feels a little bit like a welcome back, like a kind of everyone's back to school and now it's September and ironically the sun's come out and all that kind of stuff. But yeah, a massive warm welcome to the inaugural Brighton AI meetup. Round of applause. There we go. And the clicker's working. Yes, so we've called it Welcome to the Age of Augmentation. We are basically, well, it's been hosted by us, Silicon Brighton, and then also Chaperone, and Martin is here this evening. So a big thanks to Chaperone as well. And then also a massive thank you to Projects, who are our venue sponsor for tonight and for the whole of the Brighton AI series. I think Alex may be here to say hello and a little bit about Projects as well. Please take the floor, Alex.
Thank you so much, Grace, and thank you everyone for making the time to come here this evening. I see some of our members here, so very nice to see you, and there are lots of new faces. For those who haven't yet heard of Projects, you are in one of our beautiful spaces. We have 2 spaces in Brighton, and we're opening other locations around the UK. We have a very inclusive and inspiring community here. We have co-working memberships, dedicated desks, offices, meeting rooms, event spaces, a bar on the roof. If you do have a moment after this event to head up there, you can have a look. We've got a lovely terrace up there as well. So if you're yet to have a look around and you would like to, either for yourself or your team or potentially host another event, then please do let one of our team members know or let me know or visit our website. We offer everybody and their teams free trial days, so we would love to see you back here. And we really hope you enjoy the series. We're really proud to be partnering with Silicon to host many more of these fantastic events. So thank you so much.
Amazing, thank you, Alex. And then just a little announcement / warning. This event is being recorded mainly for social and also to go on YouTube. So if you do not wish to be included in any of the footage or any of the photos, that is completely fine. But please.
Yes, there we go.
Who am I catching? Oh, now you've really put me under pressure. Hello, is this working? Oh my goodness me. Okay. I also realised I hadn't introduced myself, so I'm Grace from Silicon Brighton, and I have a catchable microphone, which we are going to use later for audience participation. This is not a sit and watch and listen, or not just a sit and watch and listen. It's very much a get involved discussion day. So yes, please get ready for that. So we've got a very cool agenda without timings because, well, we had a bit of contingency time, which we appear to have needed to. So welcome and intros, and we'll hand over to Martin in a second, just in terms of why Brighton AI. Actually, this is probably the fastest growing meetup that we've had so far. We launched it 3 weeks ago, and we've got 190 members altogether. So yeah, massive thank yous for everyone who signed up. We'll then be hearing basically from our group of facilitators who have formed a steering group and needed very little corralling, basically in coming together and making this happen. And they all each have basically an amazing perspective and some reflections on this topic of Brighton AI. So they will be up next. And then we're going to be launching into a discussion. So yeah, very much about active participation, please. And we're going to be talking around 4 topics altogether: innovation and commercialisation, Brighton and beyond, an AI literate community, government, law and regularity, and then social and ethical, so source of truth and trust. This is our amazing steering group, panel and group of facilitators for this evening. So we've got Claire Bown, she's the founder and CEO of Insert AI. Martin Howe, who is the CEO of Dapper Labs. We've got Adebisi Adewusi, who is the Science and Technology Policy Consultant of Technopolis Group. And then we don't have him here today, but also part of this group is Matt Tomsit, who is Chief Vision Officer and founder of the Green Lemon Company. So lots of these people very much at the forefront of what's happening in the world of AI. But on to a little bit about Silicon Brighton. Hopefully a lot of you, I can see, actually have attended our meetups, our other meetups that we support. But for those of you who haven't and have yet to be intro to Silicon Brighton, basically we have a mission to help the tech industry here in Brighton and the South East. The idea is that if we can put on events like these that are topical, relevant, to bring people together, sometimes just to make friends, but to share challenges and to explore sort of common trends, then we can really help the community to thrive. And this is not the only tech meetup group in Brighton. There are more than 20 altogether that are happening all across the city, and they're all free to attend. We want to make them as inclusive and as accessible as possible. So if you haven't checked any of the other groups out, please do come. Please do have a look at some of the others that we support and get stuck in. You can be new to tech, interested in tech, work in tech, old to tech, whatever it is. We would love to have you at one of our events. These are some of them coming up, just to give you a bit of an idea of the wide range of events that we have. So PHP Sussex is happening on the 13th of September. We've got Yannick in the room who can tell you all about it. We've got Products Unleashed coming up on the 14th as well. People Planet Pint, so a sustainability meetup happening on the 21st. And then Brighton Data Forum on the 27th of September. That is a QR code for our events calendar. And there's anywhere from 1 to sometimes 5, 6 or 7 events happening every week. So yeah, a wide range of stuff to get stuck into. And please engage with us online as well. If you don't just want to come in person, there's lots of conversations happening in the background as well on our Slack community. That's the QR code to download Slack and basically join the conversation. And now I'm going to hand over to Martin to tell you a little bit about this group, how it's come together, and our hopes and dreams for the future of it. Welcome to the stage, Martin Howe.
Thank you, Grace. Thank you, thank you. I think this microphone's working. Yes, good, you can hear me. Well, thanks everybody for coming along tonight. It's great to see you all here in person. We've had some dialogue online as well already. Yes, a few of us got chatting as you do and felt quite compelled that AI as a topic, a very broad topic of course, is something we need to understand more, be more engaged with, and have more dialogue about. So what better place to host Brighton AI than under Silicon Brighton, because I think does a superb job of coordinating the community. And thank you to everybody, Alex, Grace, and the team for making this process of setting these things up so easy. We wouldn't have done it without you at all. So thank you very much for being our hosts vehicle for launching this community. So over the last 4 or 5 weeks or so, not very long, we thought, what should the name be, Brighton AI, and then what's its purpose? Why do we need one of these things, and what are we going to do about it? And the purpose of tonight is to talk with you together, 2 ways, about this topic, and from this session start to form some structure about what Brighton AI could and should be. We might conclude at the end of it, it's all a waste of time, we don't need to do it, but I don't think so. So we came up with this. It's a working statement, it's probably a bit too long, but this is where we're starting. So why Brighton AI? It's one of the most powerful and rapidly evolving technologies of our time, and the potential benefits and risks associated with it, we believe, make it essential for us to understand how to utilise it, how to manage it, how to regulate it, and how to optimise this broad range of technologies actually together. That's why, and we have come up with a framework purpose. Again, it's a working statement. I think we'll refine this as we go forward. Doesn't fit on one slide, so I'll do the first piece. So we are a physical and digital community of people engaged in thinking, learning, sharing resources, all kinds of resources relating to responsible AI, design, development and deployment. We engage in discussions with industry, academia and the public to understand the benefits and impact of AI from diverse perspectives, and what's a better place to have diverse perspectives than Brighton, and to seek to apply these learnings. Our goal is to become a regional beacon and thought leader in responsible AI adoption and implementation. That is page 1. I'm going to hand over to Claire to break that down into a bit more detail. Your mic should be live. Oh, it is.
Yeah, am I on? Great. Okay. Hi, everyone. Yeah, we're sharing the kind of facilitation here, in the spirit of everyone talks and, has the opportunity to speak. So yeah, I just want to go on a little bit more about the purpose. Martin's obviously introduced us to the kind of main overall reasons, but we did kind of bring it down to 3 more broad aims that, again, is a working document, but if anyone's got any input, we'd love to hear it. But what we've got it down to currently is to create an AI literate community providing up-to-date information and resources on AI to enable individuals and organisations to keep up with advances in AI technology, best practice, policy and regulation. That's 1. We want to engage with industry and provide businesses in Brighton and beyond with information
Fallback for the evening.
Oh, am I live? I'm back again. Yeah. Okay, so where was I? Yeah, businesses and Brighton and beyond. Give them information on opportunities of AI and how to adopt the technology to innovate effectively and responsibly. And the 3rd one, to become a regional and national thought leader in AI by contributing to public discussions on the use of AI to optimise its use and to mitigate the risk of unintended harm, and to encourage dialogue in the best interests of society. So it's quite a big statement, but we feel like we needed to go big at this stage, and then, yeah, like I said, we're all ears with any contributions anyone might have. Hey. Talking of contributions, this guy's made quite a big one. So we thought it was probably a good place to start, start big, like I said. artificial intelligence is likely to be either the best or worst thing ever to happen to humanity. So there's huge value in getting it right. And getting it right is something that I'm very interested in. So I am not standing up here as any kind of expert in AI at all. Our business is called Insert Space. We're a research consultancy, but we're currently building a tool, which is an AI SaaS tool, that will automate what we do and our research framework and methodology that we've built. So yeah, that's me. I'm Claire Bown. Oh, and actually, going back to the, well, we can keep it here. We just want to make a point as well about none of us are talking like we're experts in this, and I'm sure you all agree in the room as well that, you know, it's all pretty new to all of us, and so we'd encourage people to get up and do like what we're doing, and if you've got things to say and you think things that people want to hear, we'd encourage you to get involved in the coming meetups. Thanks. Okay, so actually, sorry, I'm going too fast, aren't I? Just a little bit about our business, a bit more. We, like I said, we're a research business dealing in analytics. So we make workforce data useful for businesses. And in that we really interrogate data in order to make it useful for our customers to be able to make decisions on and strategic maneuvers with their businesses as they grow. We work with mostly businesses in the tech sector, so we have another unique kind of perspective on those businesses as they are kind of getting to grips more with AI and technology. Okay, so the speed of AI deployment, take-up, adoption, I think we'll all agree is pretty incredible. We're on this kind of freight train, and it's exciting, you know, it's full of hype, but how many of us, and probably to be fair, quite a lot of caught up in that hype problem. Several of them have been blinded by their own brilliance and then kind of got bitten in the arse for it. And here's some examples. So obviously these are like arguably the 4 biggest tech companies in the world. Now Amazon, for example, developed a really fantastic looking, all singing, all dancing recruitment tool. But it consistently downgraded women's resumes, and at a very early entry point, because it was basing its filter on names or places, like as in colleges where they've of a mistake. But these companies, the other thing they have in common is they've all got the resources, they've got the money to kind of rectify these problems and, fix any damage, and the internet will likely forget in the coming days or weeks or months. The majority of tech businesses or businesses, adopting AI are not in that position. So, this is why I bring it back to interrogating those data sets and training of algorithms, because it's the real kind of core starting point of building any AI. So everyone in the room will be familiar with diversity, equity, and inclusion, and the problems that we face today, and specifically in tech. And it's white male dominated, but don't get me wrong, there's nothing against anyone who identifies as white male in the room. I even married a white male tech worker, so I think you're all brilliant. But I want to make a point about how the industry is dominated massively by one sector. How does this mean that limited massively by lacking in diverse voices, lived experiences and opinions of other people? How does those people who are trained those systems, how does it play out with the future technologies that we're building? How does it play out for the algorithms of the future when the AI really takes hold? What does that look like? And are we questioning that at this stage?
No, it's not your
I think I got
fault.
too
No
close to
rhyme or
that
reason as to why that just happened.
personal space.
Yeah,
Ada,
that
yeah.
would be it.
So not only who's training those algorithms, but it's like how representative and reliable are the data sets being produced as well. In this cloud computing era, we have lots of sources for data, and how is that being interrogated? What does that look like? Or are we just trusting that we can use that data and move forward with our business, with our product building, whatever it is? Not really, is my answer. So how do we address this? So we actively work, and I say we, my colleague Nick is in the room, at Insert Space. We actively work to amplify minority voices and opinions and build inclusive strategies and parameters from the outset.
Turn left towards Market Street.
Which way is that?
That way.
Anyway, we do that because we're a research-led business. And mitigating unintended bias and building robust frameworks from the outset is something that the research industry has been doing for years. So it's really what I would encourage people to do is take a deeper look at the research industry, at their methodologies and their frameworks, because there's a lot of alignment that we can use today. And like I said, it's what we're doing at Insert AI. I'd also encourage people to sort of make use of experts. We've partnered with the University of Sussex and to really just get as many people at that project start point as possible to
Definitely was.
I think we're on Market Street now.
Yeah, you were here.
Okay, I'm nearly done. So, and then I will go to Market Street. So if we don't address these potential pitfalls, they're going to become more inherent, more ubiquitous in the future, in these algorithms that we're training. So within 5, 10, however many years' time, how easy is it going to be to rectify or to reverse those inherent biases that we've kind of built into the systems? Just carrying on. So my vision for an unbiased AI future is robust data sets and well-trained models that magnify minority voices
microphones and other advanced technologies are here with us. And if they're not actually here or flying cars outside the window, they are here on Earth. People are making flying cars at home. Goodness gracious. So these technologies are here. We're in the future. In fact, we're in what's called the fourth industrial revolution. Can we go down a little bit because it's going to ring again? Thanks, Alex. Steam was the first, mass production was the second, digital revolution, industrial revolution was the third. We're in the fourth one, where digital, physical, and biological domains of technology all affect and interact with each other. So progress in one domain accelerates progress in another, etc., etc. So the rate of change is moving rapidly. And throw off these technologies that are dotted around here and probably new ones being invented as we go. This isn't the first time I've presented this slide. This isn't the first time I've said we're in the future. The first time I made the statement we're in the future was way back in 2015. In 2019, I had evidence that we're in the future with this headline, "Self-driving car kills robot." What better proof that we're living in the future than this statement? But each time I would present these slides, I would be talking about a piece of technology, whether it's IMAX going from film to digital, whether it's blockchain or metaverse or something. I could reasonably accurately have a bit of a view into the future. I would say 5 years from now, probably these things are going to happen. 10 years even, I'd have a fair guess. And I'm about right. I could do a bit of research, I talk to people, I look and listen, and we could all do this. We could all extrapolate reasonably well on most of those technologies. It recently. So if this person, who is an expert in the subject, hasn't really got a clue about the rate of change, what hope do we have? Well, I think our hope is to engage with it, to talk, listen, think, discuss at pace. If we don't do it at pace, we won't be on top of it. That's my perspective. So I think about it now in a number of ways, but I use two words, autonomy and curation. Autonomy is this notion of the black box challenge, unexplainable AI. If I talk to people who work in AI and ask them what's happening, they generally say, well, I'm not really sure, I've set it up and it does these things. Most of my experience working with engineers, technicians, I ask them what the box they do does, whether it's software or hardware, and they'll tell me exactly what it does, why it's working, how it's working, what goes in and what comes out, and they will know that. In this technology, there's such a thing as unexplainable AI. I think that's a worry, and I don't know how we manage it. The other word I use a lot now is curation. We have a software platform called Chaperone that allows people to quickly and easily build very powerful native apps. We focused on the attractions market, out-of-home tourism, museums, theme parks, that kind of thing. When we talk to museum and the heritage sector, they only curate, really. And when they curate, they think very, very carefully about every single word that gets put in the public, every single image. They worry so much they take a long time to do anything, years sometimes, before they decide that what they put out there is true, beyond any reasonable doubt. A bit too much so in my experience sometimes. But they curate, they really care about content and the accuracy and the legitimacy of that content. See how opposing those two things are. My view is, and the way we are working with AI currently, is we think it's essential to make sure that there is human-led output and input of AI-generated content and processes. We want to make sure there's a human in the loop at all times to make sure what goes out is good, valid, honest, truthful, and those things. How long for? I'm not sure. 3 years? I don't know how long we're going to be able to continue to human curate this content that we generate, but I think it's important to understand that dichotomy. The other thought is this, AI versus government. Which one's which? Probably obvious. Talking about the impact of those technologies on us. Privacy, trust, content ownership, all those things. And it was obvious to me towards the end of the day that if government really were trying to catch up, in fact I was sitting next to one of the guys that was writing, helping framework the legislation which to go through government policy. And a couple of times at the break I said, how are you getting on keeping up with these things? He said, we understand broadly what it is, but it's a very time-consuming and energetic process to take all these thoughts and words and put them into a governmental management system. So I wonder if I was back in that room and we were talking about AI, how everyone would be feeling. Worried, I think, is my overriding thought. So how do we, I'll just stop there. So how do we manage that dichotomy of autonomy versus curation, and how do we help understand and be on top of regulation and managing all of these very fast-moving issues? Bissy. Either one of these. Do we think this? Ooh, that might work.
Okay. There you go. Hello, everyone. So my name is Adebisi. You can call me BC. And I'm a science and technology and innovation policy consultant. It's quite a mouthful. And I work at Technopolis. We're here in Brighton and also in London. But I'm at the Brighton office. And what I do is I advise governmental bodies on AI policy and emerging technologies, which is fun. I love what I do. And that means I get to read policies when they are passed. I know what's going on in the field. So I'm going to talk about AI and me outside of work. It sounds like work, what I do outside of work. So during the weekend, the UK government released the Artificial Intelligence Interim Report. And I wanted to read it. It was quite long. And I said, oh, there's ChatGPT. Let's put it in it. And I did. And it said, sorry, it didn't have data for after 2021, so I had to go read the whole thing myself, which was interesting. Just I couldn't go out to the beach, so I just sat down and read that one. Right, so the Governance of AI Report 2023 is the latest report produced by the UK government, and the report in summary gives some advice on what the UK should be focusing on when it comes to AI governance. Like we know, or might be aware, there's the EU AI Act coming up. It comes into play next year, and everyone is excited, maybe except for the private companies. They're not that excited about it. So the Governance of AI report looks majorly at the opportunities and challenges that will come with the adoption of AI technologies. And it focused on two key policy areas, which is medicine and healthcare. So it focused on two areas, medicine and healthcare, and also education. I found, and also it mentioned 12 AI governance challenges that the UK government should be aware of when governmental bodies or private companies or anyone starts using these technologies. What I found interesting about this whole report was the stakeholders involved in developing the report, because it's no good if you create a report and it's just one demographic in the room. We need diversity. So when this report was done, the people in the room included people from the private sector, public sector, and the non-profit sector, which I think is a sector that is very important to be in the room when talking about AI, because the non-profit sector is oftentimes involved in conversations around using technology for surveillance and privacy issues, which is, I think, is a big issue that we'll be having moving forward when we adopt AI technologies. If I'm working in the supermarket and I've got facial recognition technology on me, I want to know what it's capturing and why it's capturing it, and just what that data is being used for in general. So it's great to have people in the room who would advocate for those type of things. So it was great to see them there. And talking about medicine and healthcare, the report mentioned that AI is being used for medical research, to quickly look for solutions to medical problems, finding these solutions quickly than if a human did it. We'll see. And also looked at how these technologies can be used to free up time for healthcare practitioners, especially like healthcare workers, the routine jobs, letting the technology do those jobs than people doing them to save up more time and increase productivity. So that was interesting to see. It also talks about the use of AI in education. The educational practitioners talks about how they have been using these tools to create lesson plans, and it helped them save time. So there was a lot of thematic pointers in the area of saving time when it comes to using technology, so that was interesting to see. And it also talks about how students use AI, and specifically things like ChatGPT as some sort of smart calculator. During our time, we had calculators to solve problems, but they now have things like ChatGPT to solve problems for them. So that's how the educational system is using AI, and they think that they're not quite sure yet what the future holds with students using this tool, but they're quite open, to students using it. When ChatGPT got introduced, many schools did not like the idea of students using it because it was kind of like plagiarism and things like that. So it's interesting to see that educational practitioners are open-minded towards the use of AI technology in education, which I think is not a bad stance to have, being open-minded to technology and saying, okay, it's 2023 and things can't be like they were in the past. Things are moving fast and changing. So what does the future hold? Let's try this tech and see. Let's not be so dark and gloomy about it and see if there are opportunities there. So I'm quite happy to see that the educational sector is open towards using AI technology. Another thing I was happy to see was the UK government talking about its 12 AI governance challenges. There are issues with using AI technologies, and these are the 12 challenges that the report highlighted. These challenges: bias, misrepresentation, privacy, access to data, access to compute, black box issues, open source, intellectual property and copyright, liability, employment issues, international coordination, and existential. Yeah, I got it right. So these 12 issues are in line with what we find in literature concerning AI harms and risks, so that's great to see. Also, these are in alignment with what we've seen in AI policies from other countries across the world, so it's great to see that the UK government is taking the issue of responsible AI very seriously, and is at the core of most of the policies that the UK government is actually putting in place to ensure that AI is used for good and responsibly. So it was great to see that. So in general, AI regulations in the UK have been pro-innovation. They have largely been promoting principles of transparency, fairness, privacy, accountability, and things like that, all the good stuff that we want to see in the policy. They are often context-specific, being that what they are doing to support innovation is to say, okay, the sectors should decide how they're going to regulate it, because each sector is going to use AI differently. So they've kind of like said, sectors should decide and develop appropriate enforcement strategies to ensure that AI is used for good and not for malicious themes. So that being said, I want to conclude by saying that the responsible development, design, deployment of AI is core of the UK AI's policy. And when we look at the news headlines here, we can tell why it is important for them to be responsible because, like Claire said, bias in AI recruitment tools, facial analysis software that have error rates of 0.8% for light-skinned men and 34.7% for dark-skinned women means that people will be misidentified. And when you're misidentified and you're from a minority group and you do not have access to legal representation, it is a problem for that group. That's why things like this are scary for many people to read. What happens when an algorithm costs your healthcare? Is it still working? I don't know. So we are in a world where AI technologies will decide who gets access to healthcare, who can get a job, who is good enough to be recruited for a job, who looks like a criminal. We are in a world where tech is going to decide and there is no human in the loop. So when we think about these things, we have to reflect and say, oh, there is a need for us to talk about developing AI responsibly. And how does that happen? It's true, it starts from designing the AI itself. We need to have people in the room who have different ways of thinking. You cannot have one group in the room doing the thinking. When you have one group in the room doing the thinking, what you have is a product that just does not, that is blindsided to other important things. For example, I built this facial tech thing that does not recognize that it doesn't see black skin properly. I may not think that way because I'm not black, if I'm another color, whatever. So when you have many people in a room, they will tell you that, hello, this tech you're building could have this problem. So that's why it's important for us to engage everyone in discussion about how AI tools will be designed, developed, and deployed. So I would like to encourage all of us to, in some way, if we can, if we have the time, to contribute to efforts regarding how, if we cannot be in the rooms where they are designed, we can be in the rooms where there are going to be conversations about how they are deployed. Because recently, most governments have been putting out public calls and inviting citizens to, give their recommendations and advice on how they think AI will impact them. I think about a couple of months ago, there was one from the UK government about AI and education. They asked people to send in comments on what they think about the future of education would be with AI in it. So I want to encourage us to, contribute to these discussions as a way of us, in our small way, of influencing how AI technologies will be used in society, and to ensure that AI is used for good and not for malicious intent. And to also think about how the data collected from us is being used to power these technologies. I want us to ask, how would data be processed? How would the data be stored? And how would that data be used beyond what you're asking me to give it for? So issues around privacy is something that is big, and I think we should think about that when we engage with these technologies as well. So in summary, thank you for coming to our first meetup. And I hope you do think about the responsible design, development, and deployment of AI. Thank you.
Playing microphone lottery at the moment. Keep going. Persistence. It worked. Amazing. Thank you so much, BC. And Matt is gutted not to be here this evening, but he did send some slides through anyway, which we wanted to share because they just provide a little bit of context and some reflections and thinking actually before we launch into a discussion. So just as a reminder again, Matt, who is part of our steering group and has been sort of facilitating this whole event coming together, is founder and chief vision officer of Green Lemon Company.
I've written down a description, but they basically design and build intelligent automation solutions. I can't even remember that, but yes. So again, very much at the forefront of working with AI. And he's got animated slides, which I couldn't quite do. So first of all, we just need to be very specific about the outcomes that we can accept. And then just here, I'm not going to read it all out, but just thinking about a proposed AI solution and what it should not. I'll leave you to read it, or skim read. And this is what a proposed AI solution should. And then just a couple of questions to ask ourselves. So really think about this just as we go into these discussion points. And that is pretty much it for Matt. So a bit of food for thought there. And then I'm going to pass back over to Martin, who is going to kick off the discussion part of this evening. Thank you.
Thank you, Grace. Thank you. I think my mic might work.
Yeah.
Yes, so the reason... Six or 7 weeks, oh, we've got a microphone. In the 6 or 7 weeks since we've been doing this, thanks, well done Alex, the master of the VJ. I know it's up and down, left and right, who knows. In the 6 or 7 weeks we've been together discussing this, and obviously we've got day jobs too, we came up with 20 or 30 different topics, but we've kind of crammed them into these 4 primary ones. Innovation and commercialisation, which we'll cover momentarily. Brighton and Beyond and building an AI literate community. Governance, law and regulatory, which and using it as part of their work. Maybe half the audience who hasn't got a clue, who's very much a novice and is coming here to what on earth is Brighton now and what are we doing? Few of us, yeah. Probably we should all be putting our hands up, frankly. Okay, so let's perhaps, we're going to use the microphone, one of the working ones, to pick on the subject of innovation and commercialisation. Just to ask the question, is anybody working with AI in any way in a particular sector like to talk and share what they're doing with regard to innovation and commercialisation, either a particular sector or a particular piece of tech or something that you're doing that you'd like to share with us?
Hands up before
a few
even
hands going up.
finish the question. I'm not going to attempt to throw, but yes, speak right into it and it should be okay.
Thank you very much.
Say your name and where you're from, please.
Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for hosting this event. I'm James, and I'm here with my co-founder, Brandon, and we're working to build the world's best teacher. So we've been working on this for in total about a year now. We've been sharing with students, and they've been learning in what I call the active teaching pedagogy. And that's based in taking students on a learning journey. They start knowing nothing, and you take them through at their own pace. They're not lectured, they're not taught, they're there to learn for themselves. So we've been working on connecting humans to AI, and that happens through dialogue, happens through handwriting. You can't learn maths, for example, on a keyboard in a chatbot, and we're working to build that. And that's been going incredibly well, and we're now working to share with teachers to integrate it into their workflow so that things like writing reports, setting the right homework for students, and understanding where they're struggling at the finest details is readily and easily available to them. And that's what we've been doing. We've just raised money to go to San Francisco to take this further. But in the meantime, we're really looking to see if we can find schools, more schools here in Brighton and London that are willing to take this on during its beta period.
Wow, congratulations.
Thank you.
Can I ask a question, if you don't mind? So I don't know if my point about curation is valid in your context, but my first question is, how do you make sure that that process is valid from a pedagogical point of view?
It comes through, it's just iteration at this point. So other than prompt management, the best we can do is have GPT be less involved. So GPT is, through its reinforcement learning training, it is instructed, or it is aligned to solving problems. It loves to jump in. It loves to solve your problems for you. It loves to show you the best it can do. And in maths, it's often not very good. But that isn't what a great teacher does. A great teacher has a mental model behind the thinking. We think without saying. And they try to understand the student's current conceptualization. And when they have that right understanding of what the student does or does not understand, they can provide the best possible teaching to push the student in the right direction without ever solving the problem for them. So, in answer to your question, how do we curate it or align it towards being a better active teacher and not just a problem solver or an advanced calculator? It's by telling it to say the bare minimum. That's what a good teacher does anyway. They just push, they don't solve.
Any other thoughts or questions? What areas people want to share in the area of innovation, commercial?
My name is Emma Humphreys. I'm a systems developer. I'm a freelancer. I wanted to share with other people like me who are coming from a non-AI background, who are developers, who thinking, well, how can I get into this and help? And for me, it's my career as a freelancer in the next X years. And so I've been doing a course with a company called AI Core, which they charge up to £7,000. I really recommend it, especially since an email came through a week or two ago. The government have linked in with AI Core, and it's all free. And the criteria to get it free seem to be more or less, can you breathe? So it looks like the government are getting behind us as developers in the UK to inskill. And I really wanted to let us know, because the more of us who are doing this, the better it is for all of us in the UK.
Yeah, absolutely. I think we're seeing that within the Silicon Brighton community, isn't it? AI comes up a lot in each of the groups, and there's a need that I think we can service by making those connections, having particular silos of knowledge and data, so we don't have to go looking everywhere. There's repositories, places to connect to get good information like that, so thanks for sharing. Anyone else, surely? Come on. Working in, thank you.
So, hi, I'll just introduce myself. I'm Graham Cox. I live and work in Brighton, and I've actually been working in AI since I graduated in artificial intelligence in 1990. So I've been through a few different waves of machine learning, AI, and all the different things that it means. I've worked across big consultancies and built my own startups. And I've spent a couple of years up until 2 years ago working doing technical due diligence for private equity companies, helping them evaluate the quality of the AI components in businesses that they're buying. Like, is it actually snake oil and vaporware, or are they actually getting something useful? And from that started my own AI consultancy and development business about a year ago now, and employ a bunch of remote developers and lead with consultancy, not just into private equity companies, but also into kind of generally mid-scale enterprises, helping them develop a strategy and an approach to actually using AI effectively, and then increasingly helping them actually start to deliver some of that. It's been an incredible year, 2023. You know, I've seen AI accelerate across the 21st century, but the last 12 months have been pretty unprecedented. And just as Martin says, you know, predicting what comes next, you know, even though I've spent most of my adult life thinking about this, is pretty hard work, frankly.
I was going to ask, just you know the answer.
I can tell you what I think, but whether I've got any chance of being right, I don't know. Anyway,
do you have a sense? Do you have a you know, could you articulate?
Well, I mean, because my view is that AI is a foundational technology and not a thing by itself. It's like the internet. AI use cases are huge. So, you know, when you showed your diagram of the fourth industrial revolution, and AI was a component, and all the other things were there. Actually, AI is in every one of the things that on that diagram. Right. Underlying that is absolutely crucial about use of data, but that use of data is universal whether you're building machine learning solutions or you're building a social media platform or anything else. The incorrect use of data and embedding data bias in what you do is not an AI problem first and foremost. It's just that AI has the opportunity to make some autonomous decisions if we let it, which seem much more serious than the echo chambers that we end up inside Facebook and the like. The problem is actually the same. Where I think we're going with the technologies, I could go in 10 different directions, but the thing that excites me a lot at the moment is the advancements in the creative industries, so looking at auto-generation of video, not just images, and how that can start to bind, I think, done right, add value to the creative industries and not destroy them, although there's another man here that you should talk to about that. But, you know, so lots of different angles, but currently I think that we're about to see some big advances in that space.
Yeah, thank you. We work in theme parks. We work with some of the big production houses around the world, and some of the things they share with me that they go, hey, have you seen this? They're like flipping out. But in an excited way, actually. I think that group are actually very excited about what's far easier to achieve, that would take time and effort and millions. They can now produce that content and then add their creativity around it. Please.
Hi, I'm Silicon Brighton. I'm the Director of Innovation for Shutterstock, and I've been working with OpenAI to build DALL-E. Lots of comments on the social and ethical side. I've been working with Shutterstock and Meta and a number of other companies to build out tools that don't rip off artists. And I was also the lead on the ethical committee that built Shutterstock's first commercial model to pay artists for their data when we built the models. I've lots to say about data, seeing the dangers of biased data, and actually there's a really interesting story around a building in New York. I don't know if any of you guys know this, that we're using video recognition, facial recognition for the doorbell system. And the data it was trained on, I won't say it was all Shutterstock data, but if you go to stock companies and buy data, you can very clearly see the amount of images they have for middle-aged white men, much more than they would, and you go right down that way. So this building in doorbell system that used facial recognition. Now me, if I lived there, I'd be able to get into my apartment every single time I went home because I am a quote-unquote almost middle-aged white man. But having said that, if I was a black man, I'd be able to get into my apartment 8 out of 10 times. If I was a black woman, I'd be able to get into my apartment 6 out of 10 times. If I was a Native American woman, I'd only be able to get into my apartment once out of every 14 attempts. So obviously they disbanded this. But this all comes from using poor quality data. And the other thing that is a real concern is some of these big generative tools that are out there. I've worked with all of the big generative tools, all the video tools, all the image tools. Some of them are using high quality data, but some of them are not. Some of them are using scraped data from all different sources. The problem with that is multiple. So that data doesn't necessarily have good quality labels in the first place, which is the core for good quality training. but also there are biases and racism in the labels themselves, particularly if they're human labels. So if you were to go to Midjourney and type in CEO, it's probably going to create a picture of a middle-aged white man because that's what's in the data. If you just go on Google and search for wealthy people, just put the term wealthy people into Google and then press images and see if it looks like a diverse world. It doesn't. It's just middle-aged white men. And that's the problem we've got. And there's a really interesting conversation to be had when we get into ethics, because do we want to use our actual data? Because we're building technology today that is cutting edge, but we're feeding on 50-year-old data. So we're building these bits of technology that are going to be so powerful, they can do all sorts of things, but they're going to have the same political and racial opinions as my granddad. And that's the real danger. People are scared of Terminator. Terminator's not the problem. It's biased data. That's the problem. And the other thing that's really scary about this biased data, we might not see the effects of it until it's too late. We might not be able to see it when it's happening. We might need 10 years of data to look back and go, oh my God, we've been profiling that degree of people wrong. So it's really critical. And the answer to it is several. There's different types of learnings. There's different types of technology to help with that. But one of the areas that I work in is building ethical frameworks for decision-making about buying data, about using data, and about checking the quality of the labels. So if any of you guys are doing any tools, building anything with open source data, please check the quality, check the provenance, and if you've got any questions at all about it, spend a bit of money and buy some actual data, not just from Shutterstock, but from anyone, but just buy quality data that's got quality labels. There are companies out there that specialize in it, because if you don't, the impacts we're seeing today are going to be multiplied, because today these algorithms are maybe making racist pictures, but algorithms will eventually decide who gets housing benefit, who gets university education, who gets parole. That's a really interesting one, because if we look at data for the last 50 years, we might see that one demographic of society has a higher propensity to reoffend after it's been released from parole. But is that because of that actual minority, or is it because of the racism in the judges? Is it the system that's wrong? So do we really want to use all of that data if we know that that data has got bias built into it? And that's a conversation I look forward to us having.
So I just had a quick question. So I do use AI daily personally for the work I do and in the work I do.
Your name and where you...
So my name's Mark. I'm a software architect. I specialise in e-commerce. And I'd use e-commerce day-to-day within e-commerce, but I also use it to help me send emails and write presentations to save me work so I can do more interesting things. But I had a question just to you about the quality of data, because you said make sure you buy quality data. But who decides what is quality data? So do we just say, oh, it's for a representative group of individuals? But again, who's deciding who's that representative group? Because cultures will have very different representations and very different ideas. So I don't know the answer to this at all. It's almost a catch-22. But how can you define what quality data is? And if we're saying we should open it up, for everyone to decide, you're going to get big conflicts in there. And then how do you outweigh those sort of conflicts? Do we as a Western society say, well, it's what we believe. We believe that's the most fair way, or, a different culture. So I was just wondering if you had any thoughts on that.
Well, for me, the sort of centre point of all of this, particularly around using our, we have 5 million contributors giving us 500 million images that we worked on with OpenAI for DALL-E. So we needed to ensure that they were happy for us to use that data. So the two words that I used right the way through it were consent and provenance. So if you know the provenance of that data, you can trace it back to its source, and you can check the quality of the labels, and you've got the consent of the person who gave you that data to use it. That, for me, is the first critical part of it being quality. But they're just two of the check-off points of an ethical framework. But if you've got consent and you know the provenance, you're probably a fairly good starting place.
Yeah.
Just from sort of the... I've got a microphone on. Don't mind doing this anyway.
Who knows?
It's much more fun.
Very good.
Just from the other end point of view as well, when you're looking at the quality of data, is you should, from a user point of view, be looking at your reason, your purpose for accessing that data. What do you want to get from it? What does your customer want from it? What do they hope to gain from this whole process or the project that you're undertaking? Because that can also lead you to then understand the questions that you need to ask of the data about things like provenance in order to really kind of refine and therefore make it a more kind of quality output.
Yeah. Thank you.
I've got a question for you. And you mentioned about building you have an ethical framework you use. Yeah. So how do you build it? With what guidelines? Is it based on OECD guidelines or UNESCO guidelines? So how do you develop your guidelines or your framework?
Using our DEI Spoiler alert. We started using our DEI guidelines. That was the starting point. And it's not perfect. No framework is. It's still a work in place. But by looking at diversity, equity, and inclusion, we felt we could really protect our artists. And that was the very first place we wanted to be. Shutterstock is essentially a marketplace. So we've got customers and we've got contributors. So we needed to make sure that both people were equitably taken care of. We were quite lucky because actually we're in a position where we can make sure that everyone is paid, because when someone licenses an image from the Shutterstock generative tool, then we pay out into a collective pool that pays out to all of the artists that had their content in that model. So for us, it was building out DEI and then looking at how we can apply DEI to protect our artists and then provide a good service to our customers.
Yeah, thank you. Anyone got any thoughts on the first topic? If not, we'll move on to the next. Yes, please. You can throw it, yeah.
Okay.
Yay.
I actually want to continue with this.
Your name, please, and
Azara, and I work in pay media marketing. So, listening to you, both of you, I thought it was really interesting because obviously artificial intelligence needs that data to keep growing. But for example, in what I do with marketing, we are going to see a much restricted access to this data. And that's when, for example, machine learning comes along, so to fill up that gaps. But if this artificial intelligence is not intelligent and it has a bias and everything, how is this machine learning actually filling up the gap?
So I think the best answer to that is that when we're talking about bias in data, we're talking about it, the AI reflecting the opinions that you give it, basically. So it is not untrue to say that, and I don't know the exact figure, but 95% of all of the FTSE 100 CEOs are middle-aged white men, I'm guessing, but it's probably true. That's not a biased fact, that is just a fact. So we decide that, quite reasonably, this is not where we want to be in the future. Therefore, if you're going to design systems that are going to play back and make decisions based on information for CEOs, you want to change your data set going in order that it does not perpetuate that bias, so that you're trying to bring that to an end, which we are trying to do, I hope, in society generally. But that is it's a form of social engineering. You are engineering your data set to remove inherent bias in data, because the world is biased, sadly, still. So I don't know if that answers your question, but fundamentally you have to engineer your data set to get the result that you want.
And I'll build into that too. Fantastic point. There are other types of learning. There's a federated learning, which allows you to learn in parcels. But I think the other thing that everyone needs to be aware of is that AI is not meant to make ethical decisions. It was never designed to make it makes mathematical decisions. The ethics is on us. We have to program that into the questions, the answers. So, for example, to get around that problem with the image creation, for example, we had to do prompt engineering. So if you go into the Shutterstock creative tool to generate, it's actually an API into DALL-E, but we've actually built a framework on top that actually, instead of you having to type in things like mixed race or different, we'll actually add that in. So automatically, if you say CEO, we've put things in to actually force it to show a more diverse response. So it's about also managing the outputs as well as managing the decision making.
And I think largely this point comes down to the governance and regulatory side of things. You know, society has to decide if it cares about this stuff, and if so, it needs to regulate to make sure that it happens.
Hi, my name's Wesley, I work for the council. I was thinking that AI is a child at the moment, and we all have a moral duty to bring up this child properly. So the data that we bring in will have to be ethical and moral. It's just like bringing up a child, and doing that is, we don't know how the child will grow up to be. It's like if you bring up a normal child, but we can only do our best. You know, we put in the input and we hope for the best, and that's all we can do, because at the moment it's a child and it's growing up fast.
Very fast, yeah.
I think that's an absolutely perfect analogy. The difference between machine learning, AI, and traditional programming is that it's stochastic rather than deterministic.
Yeah.
You don't know exactly what it's going to bring you back, just like our children. So we want our children to be as good as possible, but they will do some pretty weird things sometimes. and we have to deal with that in AI. So the chap who wasn't here today, one of his slides spoke about one of the key things that we have to do is to understand what acceptance criteria are for AI outputs, being able to understand accuracy, acceptability, etc., and being able to quantitatively measure what is a slightly chaotic system is one of those key areas of development to make sure that we get the best out of these things. We all know about large language models hallucinating and making things up. Is that similarly in how we represent to make sure we don't deliver bias in data, etc., having quality measures, because we know that our children will do things wrong sometimes. We just need to be able to catch it, give them the appropriate positive reinforcement to stop it happening and move on. Great analogy.
Thank you. I'm going to suggest we move on to the next, and they clearly blend together, these topics, don't they? As has been illustrated already. Brighton and beyond, what does that mean? An AI literate community, what does that mean? I have some thoughts, but I wanted to see if there are, gather thoughts from the room too. So what would an AI literate community within Brighton and slightly beyond look like? Any thoughts? We kind of had a suggestion earlier about just sharing good practice, please.
I mean, this place here right now is probably quite a good start. The discussions, having open discussions about it. Because like you said, no one really understands every part of AI because it's very different. There's very different learning algorithms and different ways of implementation. You can take the same algorithm and put different data in. So no one really understands, but having the first conversations, I think, is important. But I think it's also getting the people at the forefront of it to try and engage with essentially the lower level of the people that are using it, like us and the smaller companies, because they may be further advanced than we are. They'll have a very different understanding, and I think only by blending the understanding. So in terms of like Brighton, I think it's not restricting it to Brighton, so it is the beyond part as well, inviting and pushing out. So it sort of becomes a bit more of a shared, so then the discussions can be a bit more open and plain, because you can quite easily have a discussion with someone who knows AI a bit more, and they'll try and put you down or tear you down because you don't know something to do with the technology, and it's like, well, you can't give your input back into actually, well, here are my ethical concerns, or here is my implementation just from a small, independent trader or whatever. I guess it's just blending those conversations.
Yeah, over here. Go on.
I thought that was going to hit you. Hello, my name's Kat. I'm the Managing Director of Dab Apps, a software company based in Brighton. Just a very small thing from an earlier comment. So you kind of asked who works in AI day in, day out. About 50% of us said yes. And then you asked who understands what AI is. And I feel like about 95% of us wanted to also put up our hands. So I guess that segment is closing the gap between those two things. Lots of us are working in AI, and I put my hand up then, but also there are so many unknowns, and the only way that we're going to be able to answer that is by having these conversations. And I think for me, like, it just feels like that's the definition of it. It's just closing the gap between those two things.
Yeah, thank you. Good thought.
Who can
Yeah, go on. Yeah.
I think we've missed an obvious one here, which is that to understand AI is to use AI. And as we integrate it more into our lives, whether that's through organizing dinner for the family or for planning out a birthday party, it's going to be our co-pilot in life. And that's something we should start getting used to now before it's totally pervasive and you get left behind, or if you're frightened because you don't understand how something worked. So I would argue actually talking about it with your friends will happen naturally because you'll just be so bewildered at what it can do. But to make you want to talk with others and make others want to talk with you about it, you've just got to use it. Try and next time you're stuck on something you've never done before, you don't quite know how to tackle, try asking GPT. It might surprise you.
Yeah, good point.
Just to add to that, I think we'll need to be aware of, which has been touched on lots of times tonight, is where is that data going? What is the bias behind that data? So yes, use it, but be conscious of that all of the time.
Yeah, very good point. Any other comments, thoughts? Yes, please.
I feel like I deserve a round of applause for that.
Thank you. Hi, my name is Jerry Hussain. Some time ago, I used to run a kind of a local portal of information, so trying to absorb information about the city, businesses, events, and whatever, and spit it out again. So kind of a curated website. So when you have Brighton, and how many people think here Brighton actually has some kind of personality as a city?
Yeah.
Yeah. So kind of, I have this vision, this fantasy, maybe where we just chuck in all this data about Brighton in all these ways, and then we have sort of a Brighton-type AI that can answer stuff like, you know, where's the places to go, or things to do, or what's happening right now. So would that kind of be useful real time? So I have this vision, perhaps of not only Brighton, perhaps other cities and other areas where we could, where this technology could take us. Now, where it does take us, don't know exactly, but that's quite an interesting thought experiment, isn't it?
It is. One of the threads I've been following through events and things is placemaking, especially reinvigorating town centres where retailers are failing and all those matters. How do you recreate a place for people to live? And a lot of it is about story, culture, and personality of the place. And I think that's the point you've made. And from my experience in theme parks, you can engineer that process. You can build that. What we have in Brighton, I think, is rich of culture, story, diversity. So I think that's kind of where my thoughts are heading. I think an AI literate community is about what is AI for Brighton and what are our processes and ethics and how do we manage it. I think there's an opportunity for us to learn best practice by working together and sharing that, following government guidelines whenever they get published, because it's going to take time, right? But the general commentary, best practice, things we're learning, we probably already have in place. So my feeling is we could probably coalesce that together around culture and community and start to create our own framework to do, which was your point, to do and practice and share. And when people say, well, I don't really know how to, well, we do. As a community, we do. Someone in this room and outside this room does probably know. So let's club together, is my thoughts. The opportunity for us to club together will make us richer in terms of managing the risks and capturing the opportunity. I'm an optimist. I think AI is full of opportunity, but there are risks. But I think if we can bring together with this community all of our collective knowledge, culture, experience, we would actually be quite powerful on a local stage, probably on a national stage, and maybe even on an international stage. So that's kind of where my vision is heading. Whether or not we can get to there from where we are here, too soon to say, I think. But I think that the point you made is actually, you know, who are we? And I think we have a good place to build from. Any more thoughts on those topics?
Hi there, so Matthew Deere, I'm a CEO of a startup called Beats. I'm at early stages of developing an AI tool, probably like a lot of people in the room.
Yeah.
And my thoughts about Brighton and is around, you know, how can we make Brighton, and thanks to Silicon Brighton for making it like a hub of excellence, really. And I think to talk about that, to come together as a community and bring in some of the big players as well would be good to do for this group in terms of, you know, the big organisations, the council, the universities, in terms of helping us guide best practices in terms of sharing how, I guess in terms of adding on to the comment earlier on, how we can open up data and how they can open up data that would benefit me in terms of developing my tool. And again, from the skills side, in terms of, you know, the best practices from universities and how the graduates come in and how I can take advantage. I mean, how we can obviously build from that skill side as well. So it's not just the regulations. We need to get it right. There's the moral side, the ethical dilemma side, and that's I think that's quite clear. But I think it'd be great to talk about. Let's make Brighton a hub for this in terms of technology and excellence.
Yeah, thank you. Ty, can I invite you to make a comment or two on the council's perspective? I would love to.
Yeah. Do you want to stand up or sit down? stand up and speak into the microphone.
Stand up and speak
Yeah.
into the microphone. Yeah, that's intimidating. I'm going to end up in Market Street, as somebody said. My name's Ty Goddard, and I'm here with a colleague, Wes. I was elected to the council in May. I represent an area called Moulsecoomb and Bevendine. I won't do a hands up who's ever been there. Good man. And you should be absolutely proud of it. A fantastic community. That's why I was a bit late, actually. I've just been up there this afternoon with a meeting of tenants about refuse and recycling. It won't surprise you all. And the horrible black bins, etc., etc. But I do a leadership role, a lead role for the council in economic development. And we want to get this right. And we wanted to signal to you as a really important tech cluster. We think the work that Silicon Brighton has done, we think the work that Wired Sussex has done over the years is absolutely fundamental. Let me tell you what somebody said to me in June. It was a very funny conversation. And they said, other cities are eating our tech lunch. I thought that was quite interesting. Yeah, a lunch, tech lunch. But this kind of sense, what they were trying to communicate to me, and I think it was spot on, is tech clusters have to be worked at. You don't just necessarily get skills, jobs and growth by, oh, well, Brighton. Yeah, Anita Roddick was here and set up Body Shop. Lots of people don't know that either. But that kind of sense of entrepreneurialism, that sense of activism, that sense of placemaking that Martin talked about, I think is absolutely vital. But for too long, Brighton hasn't talked with, it's talked at communities like Moulsecoomb and Bevendine for absolutely yonks. But actually, it's often doesn't talk with other communities. And often a skills pipeline for young people that are not interested in going to university or haven't been to public school, private school, is very, very difficult for them to access. Also, we have to be about jobs, creating sustainable employment, sustainable growth, and it doesn't just arrive like that. It doesn't just arrive with a kind of magic wand. And what that person meant about other places are eating your lunch in Brighton, your tech lunch, was places like Bristol, places like Manchester. I'd also argue something really interesting is happening in places like Sheffield, Glasgow, Cardiff, yeah? And also, I think, key to have, I'm looking at the way that Manchester organises itself with a directly elected mayor. That's interesting, you know? And the role that a local authority can play, I think, is absolutely crucial. And I think what you're doing here is you're beginning to, and I think I found it profound tonight, actually. There's something really important about saying, I don't understand it all. Yeah? What it used to be. And I head up an organisation called EdTech UK, Education Technology UK, in my day job. And we've been wrestling with a lot of those issues. Yeah, the ethics of AI, how to raise that child with independence, but also your point, I think, was spot on, with responsibility. Also, your point, you know, you've been at it since the 90s. This isn't necessarily new. And literacy, you know, when we talk about digital products, we talk about understanding digital. There isn't much digital literacy that goes on in our schools. There isn't the time, they argue, in the curriculum. You know, and you're going to find this, I think, as your product, yeah, your teaching product that develops, is that there isn't much time for continual professional development. There isn't much time to actually have a professional reflection and thought. That's what this stuff is all about. Reflection for you as people developing this, people who are using it already, who want to take it to the next horizon. It's fitting it in, it's understanding it on a bigger global stage. It's also understanding the interaction, I would argue, that's what we've seen, the interaction between big tech, small schools. Yeah, small schools, big tech. Even a secondary schools, big tech. You know what I'm talking about. I don't need to, yeah, you understand all of those issues. So we want to be involved in the conversation. I want us also to think about how we develop a tech cluster that's meaningful. I want us to take back a bit of that lunch. Yeah? And why I want us to take that lunch isn't about egos. It isn't about aren't we important in Brighton, aren't we different. It's about skills, jobs and growth. And it's about connecting those hidden communities that I don't think have always had a chance at those skills, jobs, and certainly haven't had a chance at that growth. And that's what we want to do. It's a new council. We've not had a majority in this council. We've not had a majority political party in this council for about 20 years. I'm a Labour member since I was about 18. I'm no longer 18, obviously. I'm utterly committed to change in this city. Some of the things that we see on our streets are unacceptable in terms of the quality of what the place looks like, etc., etc. But the answer is in this room. And I commend you all. I commend Silicon Brighton. I really do. And I commend all of you for your inputs and just this sense of let's go and explore. Let's be ambitious. Martin, I think you're spot on. And I think others in the room are spot on. Why can't we be world leaders in AI?
Yeah.
Why can't we?
Yeah.
Let's do it.
Thank you. And we don't have time, and we don't have time. We've wrapped up for this evening. I hope what we are all taking away from this is a conversation that's already started. We're starting to consolidate it here, but it must go on, it must continue, and it must amplify. We've got a couple of slides and suggestions about call to action. So call to action, please continue to contribute. There's a number of ways you can do that. You can take our questionnaire. If you scan that, that should take you to a questionnaire that I think asks a few questions. Do you want to contribute and you just listen and learn? Do you want to be part of forums or special groups? Do you want to organise and run a group of particular subject? And do you want to chair or co-chair any particular thing? All those roles are open to everybody because there's a lot to do. There's only a few of us started this initiative. So please follow up. We're going to do some follow-ups ourselves. What's on the next slide? Yeah, the next meet-up, I think, is 4th of October. Where, how, what's yet to be decided. Look at the meetup page is the place to follow. There's a Slack channel that we'll start and build. Based on your feedback and what we're taking from today, we'll try and put a bit of structure around that. I'll definitely be following up with you, Ty, to see what support we can get locally and others that have contributed already. Thank you very much.
That's basically it. I'm just going to scroll back again to that one, just as a little nudge in case anyone else wants to scan that QR code. This doesn't end tonight. I think it probably starts tonight. We've started the conversation and we've all talked about the collaboration in solving this problem, challenge, opportunity, issue, thing that's taking over. So please, we do want this to be a really active community that does something about this, and this is very much the start of it. So please do get involved, or come and speak to one of us, connect with us on LinkedIn, email us, any of those things. Please do hound us if you want to be a part of it. And then again, to take you to the next one, please keep coming to these as well as our other meetups. So they're going to be the first Wednesday of every month. Continuate projects, if they can get their microphone sorted. But there'll definitely be drinks and pizza regardless of where they happen. So keep coming, please do contribute. And a massive thank you to everyone who's contributed this evening.
Yeah.
And that's it. There's still beer. There's still beer and soft drinks and pizza. So help yourselves. And thank you.
See you again. Thanks for coming. Thank you. See you again, I hope. I do.
Okay. So I want to talk about the outputs and agree with you.
Yes.
You said it's 3 years before it gets real problematic. The point is, I think, some of those objective results are going to be untraceable.
That's
Okay.
concern.
And dealing with this problem is technically quite easy, not politically. Right. And the way to deal with it is simply to say, way of guaranteeing that only what the computer programs, the computer nudges you. And what you're saying is that only the computer programs can actually test the logic and program it. And there will be some but that needs to be ready in place, and we need to think about training people so that they're there. Otherwise, we're going to
Well, please join in the meetup. Are you going to be able to sustain engagement with the group? Yeah, there'll be loads of specifics.
Well, I've caught up with Grace, but I am.
Okay.
That's why she's set stuff. I'm the public speaker, so I've got about 15 notes each. So yeah, happy to come in.
Great. See you again then. See you next time. Appreciate it. Thanks for coming along. Well done. Well done. It's good, isn't it? Oh, well. Yeah, good. Good points made, weren't there? And you can tell, can't you?
They're really engaged. Because often at these things you can get people like,
There's a few figureheads in the room, aren't there, emerging, so you can recruit them, down amplified. That's also the point, isn't it? I think we wanted to break that up into 4 different working sessions, or let's think about. Thanks for coming. I appreciate your comments. Yeah.
Thank you so much. I really enjoyed it this evening. Great thing you're doing, and I'll follow you in any way.
We're doing. We're doing. You've just been recruited. That's a formal process. Welcome to the team. I don't know what it is or how. Now, I'm sure you can add a huge amount of value.
Well, lots of enthusiasm and